Hello, dear friends. Hi, hello, welcome. My name is August. This is Cozy Rosy Reads, and you can tell by the title today, I'm going to be unhauling some books. Not gonna lie, friends, NGL. I filmed this already. Footage was gone. The footage just evaporated into thin air. Cannot be found anywhere. What happened? I did it just 20 minutes before this. So I have some water here because my throat already hurts from talking so much. I'm gonna be taking some water breaks because I did a whole video and it is gone. Like, just finished filming it. It went bye-bye. So I have some water, stay hydrated. So before we get started, I do want to have a brief chat about unhauling books. I feel like now that I'm in the booktube sphere, I weekly oscillate between two different sides of myself that I want to be. One is one that I have been maintaining before I started booktube, which was only keeping 5-star reads. But with that, I then gained this horrible habit of donating books too early. I would donate 3-star books, 4-star books, right after I finished them because they didn't wow me. And you might have noticed if you've been here for a while, I would continuously say, I used to own this book, I got rid of it, and I'm really upset about it. So I would get into this horrible habit of once I finished a book and I was like, meh, no, I would just immediately donate it. So I have since then curbed that, but I still live in this kind of world, this bubble of that should be how I maintain books in my home. I live in a smaller apartment. It makes most sense for me to only keep books that I love, I cherish, that if friends come over and I can just pick any book from that shelf and be like, I loved this book 100%, I want you to read it and love it too. Then there's the other part of me that since joining booktube, I have been influenced by so many other booktubers, and I feel strongly compelled to keep every single book that I have ever read and just have a massive library of everything. And that's just not ideal, but I still want to live in that realm. I want to have expansive bookcases when I move into a house eventually. I want to just have this massive library. And in order to do that, I need to keep every book I've ever read. So I've been oscillating between these two. But thanks to you all who voted in my YouTube community forum in the poll that I had, mass majority of you wanted to see a book on haul, and for that I am so grateful. Thank you so much for being interested in this kind of content. It really helps me out to know what you all are interested in seeing. So for this one, I did go a little bit harder. I picked books that I have finished pretty recently, that I feel just did not wow me, that I feel I'm happy to have it move on to another person, for it to find somebody else to donate it. And I think that's really important to donate these books because mass majority of the books that I read, I find either thrifted or secondhand from little free libraries, or I buy them brand new for $1 at Dollar Tree. So I'm totally fine with donating them back to my community and hoping that somebody will resonate with it more than I have. So I'm not getting rid of any of these books really out of malice or spite. It really is just from a loving place of okay, I read this, I can say I've read it, and that's all I need. I don't need the physical version anymore. And that's hard as readers. Sometimes we get sentimentally attached to books. So I have with me today a total of 17 books that I will be unhauling. I really scoured my shelves. I really thought about my choices and my decisions, and I am ready to release them into the universe, into the wild, into my local community. So I will be sharing what the book is, obviously, but I will be talking about what it made me feel, maybe what I originally rated it, and why I'm donating it. So let's just go ahead and get started. The first book that I will be donating is The Vagina Monologues by Eve Ensler. This is a book that I read at the very, very beginning of my booktube journey in one of my earliest kind of vlogs. So I read this, my friend actually was getting rid of it, I took it from her, and I'm so happy to be donating it back. I think this is a really impactful piece of feminist literature. I thought it was really well done. It was really easy to read, though there are some pretty severe content warnings that focus on violence against women. So this just brought a lot to my attention about how uncomfortable we are with just saying the word vagina, the taboo around it, the taboo in talking about loving ourselves, loving our bodies, body autonomy, sexual violence. There's a lot that goes into this. I think it was really enjoyable and very eye-opening and thought-provoking, but I just don't really think I need to hang on to this. I think it would do better to have somebody else read it because it is a piece of modern classic literature. I would absolutely love to still see the like kind of a performance of this, a monologue, a production of this. I think that would be really amazing. But I think it would serve somebody in my community a little bit more than for me just to have it on my shelves and never pick it up again. So I'm going to be donating the Vagina Monologues. Next, we're going very old school. We're going back to the year 2014 with this book. Apparently I read it in 2014. I honestly have hardly any memories of actually reading this, and apparently it has been at my parents' house since then. They are doing some renovations on their house right now and going through some stuff, and they gave it back to me, and I don't think I need to hang on to it, and that is The Trial by Franz Kafka. I honestly can't believe that I read this in 2014, which means I was out of high school, I was in university, I read this for fun. Who am I? I think at that age and at that time, I was reading a lot more smarter literature, and I think I personally was a little bit smarter than I am now in my reading content, but that's okay. I do remember trudging through this book. It is very dense, it's very heavy. I had read The Metamorphosis in high school, and I actually really liked how bizarre and strange and weird it was, so I picked this up, and I really love the cover. I feel like this is a smart book. I feel like it would give me a little bit of an ego trip to like just keep it on my shelf and be like, yeah, I read The Trial. Ooh. I don't want to be like that person. I don't want to be that person. I love this cover though so much, and this paper texture, it's so delicious, but I will never read it again. I don't even remember it. I will not recommend it to anybody else because I don't know what it is. I'm really proud of myself for reading this. My younger self, I'm so proud of you, but I don't need to hang on to this, and maybe somebody else needs it for a university class or is interested in reading more by Kafka, so I will be donating The Trial. Next, I will be getting rid of a book that I read very recently, just in June, and I did have a reading vlog for this one, and that is 7 Days of You by Cecilia Vaness. This is exactly what I needed in the summertime. I remember saying that very clearly in my vlog. I wanted something light and fluffy, and this was that exactly. A piece of YA literature, follows an angsty teenage girl, very summer vibes. It was really easy to read and fly through. It didn't stick with me at all. I wanted to hang on to it primarily because I love pink spines. I thought it would just be like a little nice refreshment to look on my bookcase and just see pink. But this serves me nothing. This didn't give me any sort of wow moments. I really didn't feel anything emotionally for this book. I did give it 3 stars on Goodreads, and in general, I still think that rating is very fair. It was enjoyable to read, but it just didn't emotionally impact me whatsoever, and I really hope that somebody, maybe a teenager going through some transitional phases and going through really big life changes like family issues or moving to a new place, will find this and maybe find some solace in it, because I think that is definitely its target audience, and maybe it would do some good. So I will be getting rid of this one as well. Next, I will be getting rid of my copy of Passing by Nella Larson. I got this from my friend, yet again, the same friend that I got Vagina Monologues off of. Danae, if you're watching this, I love you. She was getting rid of this, and I knew I had to read it. This is a classic piece of literature. This is an important text, one that I really felt I needed to read. I felt so compelled to read this to understand pop culture references, modern references to this book, and I needed to read it for myself to understand. And now I can say I've read it, I understand. This just didn't have a really big emotional impact on me. I can definitely see the significance, the importance of this book, this text. I think it's incredibly well done. I am shocked that it was written in like the early 1900s. That's just amazing to me. I think, yeah, again, it's just really important, really powerful, but I think somebody else will enjoy it a lot more than me and can maybe take away some bigger themes from it, and can maybe analyze it a little bit more than I was able to while reading it. After finishing this book, it really didn't stick with me a whole lot other than the knowledge of this book. So now when I hear references to Passing, I know exactly what people are talking about. I can have my own opinions and thoughts on it, and that makes me really happy. I feel more educated after reading this, and I can, especially in the literary world, so I do think it's really important, but I do think that somebody else would really enjoy this a lot more than me. So I will be donating Passing. Next is a book that I honestly cannot remember if I ever talked about it on this channel other than like during a wrap up. I don't think I did a vlog around this. This was such a wild deviation from what I typically read, and that is Moon Chosen by PC Cast. We have this like beautiful holographic cover with a wolf on it. I don't read fantasy. I don't read fantasy at all. This was just something that was sitting at Dollar Tree. I was like really oddly intrigued by it, like a floppy paperback fantasy, and I really wanted to give a chance on fantasy. I held on to this for a few months. It's been a while since I've read it now, and it is part of a trilogy, and I did think once I finished this that I would continue with the trilogy, but now that is just not ever going to happen. I'm sorry, it's just never gonna happen. Maybe one day I'll find a fantasy series that I feel really connected to and I want to continue reading, but fantasy is just not a genre that I gravitate towards. So this was just a little hokey for me. The dialogue was a little hokey, but I had so much fun reading it. Like, I flew through this chunk of a book. I flew through it. I devoured it. I thought it was so much fun, despite the hokiness, despite the cheesiness. I did think it was a lot of fun, but I will never read it again. I don't really have a community of friends that I feel like would even be interested in this, so I don't really know who to pass it along to, so maybe somebody else will find it. I do have to say with this book though, and I think I talked about it in my wrap-up, it reads like YA, like the dialogue is really cheesy, the writing is really, really accessible, but the content is really heavy, really dark, so many content and trigger warnings. This is really intense. So it reads like YA, it might come across as that, but it is not. It is very adult, a lot of adult themes, a lot of animal cruelty and violence, a lot of gore. So yeah, this is just not a like light fluffy read at all in terms of like a really high fantasy book. So I will be donating this, and I'm really happy I gave a chance on a fantasy book because that's something I don't really do very often, but it served its purpose. It's ready to go to a good home. Next, some of you who might have been here for a while might be surprised that I'm going to be donating this book because at the time I think I did give it 5 stars. But in retrospect, I just have not thought about it since. I don't think it was a rightful 5-star. 5-star books are ones that I want to gush about all the time. They're books that I want to talk about all the time. I think about them a lot. And this one just didn't. So I think in hindsight, it's more like a 3-star for me. But I have several people in my family that I feel like might enjoy this, and that is Einstein's Dreams by Alan Lightman. This had so many elements that while reading it felt really compelling to me. It felt really important. It talked a lot about mortality, time, metaphysics, like space and dimensions, and time running in a circle, time running parallel, time running slow and fast, and all of these kind of make-believe parallel universes. And I thought it was really smart. I thought it was really fun. For some reason, just even on like page 7 or something, I started crying because it just hit me in a way of like just talking about life and death and mortality and how time impacts that so much. So it did something for me while reading it, but in retrospect, like I just didn't really gain anything from this book. I have not thought about it since, but I do have some family members who seemed interested in this. So I do have some tabs still in it that I think I'll leave for them, and yeah, maybe they'll read it and maybe they'll enjoy it more. So this will be going probably to one of my family members. Next, I'm getting rid of The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I read this in a reading vlog a few months back. Maybe it was still winter time. I'm not entirely sure. I don't quite remember. This book had so much potential for me. It had so much potential to be riveting and a new favorite, and it had so many elements that I absolutely love in a book, like portal fantasy, magical realism, angsty teenageness. Like it had so many things. Like reading this book felt like a fever dream. And I love books like that. I love books that are so bizarre and outside of our normal sphere, but it was just missing something. It missed something entirely that did not make it anywhere close to a 5-star read for me. And I had this same experience. I would compare The Hazelwood for me as like The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I absolutely love The Night Circus. The premise of The Starless Sea sounded so freaking perfect for me, like 100% match. And then I read it and I was beyond disappointed. It seemed like if on paper you had written down all the things that I love about a book or elements in a book that I would enjoy, it seemed like The Starless Sea and The Hazelwood would be a 5-star prediction, but both of them just did not work for me. I really did not like The Starless Starless Sea, and I did end up donating my copy of The Starless Sea before I even had my booktube channel. And then after being on booktube for a while, I was kind of kicking myself like, oh my god, I should have liked that book, I should have kept it, maybe I can reread it, maybe I'll like it more, because it is such like a fan fave on booktube. But again, with this book unhaul and with coming into terms of like what I personally like reading, I need to like put my ego aside and just be like, I didn't like that book. I will never be able to put my finger on why I didn't like The Starless Sea and why I didn't like The Hazelwood, because in theory they should have been 5 stars, but they were severely lacking something, and maybe I will never know what that something is, but it just really missed the mark for me. So I think overall this book is more like a 3-star book for me. I really enjoyed the reading experience though. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I don't even remember the ending now. I don't know what it was. I remember some scenes, but yeah, it just didn't have a huge emotional impact on me. So hopefully this will go to somebody who will absolutely fall in love with it. I think that the cover art is absolutely stunning. I love the texture of this book, so hopefully it will attract a really fun reader who will absolutely love it. Pew! Oops. Next, I'm actually getting rid of 2 books at the same time that are part of the same series, and that is the Song of the Seraphim series by Anne Rice. So this is a duology series. The first book is Angel Time. We have this beautiful shiny cover, which I actually thrifted very, very recently. It was actually included in my summer book haul, I'm pretty sure. And then the second book is Of Love and Evil. I am not a series reader, but this was such a delight for me. I really enjoyed this duology series. I liked that there was minimal commitment on my end to have to keep up with a series. They're pretty short too, which is lovely. But when talking to my dad about these books and him seeing some of my videos of me talking about them, he said that these sounded so interesting and he was really curious about them. So I think I'm going to be donating these directly to my dad. I think he would really enjoy them, and I hope that he gets the same experience out of them that I did, which is feeling really oddly connected to these characters and feeling very emotional about them and feeling protective of them. I think it is such a unique series, really well done, but I just think that he might enjoy them a little bit more, and I think my time with them should be passed on and given to somebody else to enjoy. So I'm going to be giving these directly to my dad, and I really hope he enjoys them. And I think that's the hard part about unhauling books, is like, even though you enjoyed them a lot, there is this part of me that feels like it's just better for somebody else to have them, even though I enjoyed them so much. And I think that's a really rewarding feeling, but at the same time it is difficult, because you're like, oh my gosh, what if, especially on booktube, when you're recommending books, like for my zodiac recommendations or seasonal recommendations, it's easier to just have a plethora of books around you that you can hand select, rather than talking about the same X amount of books over and over and over again. So it's hard to be getting rid of some of these, because I feel like some of them might be really good seasonal recommendations for you. But if that's the case, then I can always use Google and get a picture and put it on the screen. You know what I'm saying? Next is a book that I read really, really recently, and well, actually the next 2 books are books that I read really recently, just in July, and they were included in my July wrap-up. First one is Wicked River by Jenny Milchman. I did have a dedicated reading vlog to this book because I enjoyed it so much. I thought it was so much fun, but the ending was pretty disappointing. I think that the ending really did kind of ruin, kind of, quote unquote, my reading experience of this book. I think it was a really safe ending. I think things wrapped up a little too nicely and neatly in a little bow. I thought it was just a little too safe, but the reading experience was so fun. I genuinely needed this in my life at the time that I read it. I needed this. I needed a book that I could feel like addicted to, that I just wanted to keep reading. Like, I would be like, okay, just one more chapter and then I'll go to bed or I'll eat dinner or whatever, and I would just keep going. So I would be reading over 100 pages a day. I just wanted to know what was gonna happen. I needed that in my life at the time. But I think that it's a book that I can definitely live without. It's a book that I definitely don't need a physical copy of. It will forever be a book that I'm so grateful for kind of getting me out of a little bit of a reading slump, for feeling like appreciation and obsession and like kind of like an addiction to reading. I really needed that, and it was such a fun reading experience. Overall though, I did just give this like 3 stars. It was not super incredibly memorable. I barely remember the ending, but the experience will forever be with me, and I'm really happy I read it. So hopefully someone else will enjoy it too. This is another book that I read in the month of July, and that is Vermeers' Milkmaid by Manuel Rivas. I was hanging on to this book for almost 2 years before I read it. It was the book that had been on my TBR the longest, I think. And I was pretty underwhelmed when I read it. I feel like I kind of hyped it up a little bit in my brain, thinking it would be absolutely amazing because I love this cover. I love this cover. It is so stunning. It's a very short collection of short stories. So I really thought I would enjoy this. There were maybe like 2 or 3 stories that have stuck with me and I still think about, which is amazing if you think about it. Like, having stories and writing and books that you still think about pretty regularly is very impressive. But the rest of this just did not wow me. It did not wow me. I didn't feel emotionally connected to this at all, which is why I don't really feel any emotional regret or longing or frustration that I am donating it. So I will be giving this away. I'm so happy I read it. I would actually really love to read more by this author too, but it just didn't 100% work for me, and maybe it'll work better for someone else. Next, this one frustrates me. I can't believe I did this. So this is a book that before I had BookTube, I wanted to get to BookTube so bad. I was on the sidelines of BookTube. I would watch it all the time. I wanted to be a booktuber, but I was so scared of YouTube. And you all have proven me so wrong. I have yet to have a single troll on this channel, knocking on wood. You all are so welcoming and kind and thoughtful and wonderful, and it amazes me every day with your kind comments. But I was so scared of being on YouTube. I thought it would just be trolls and really mean people. I was scared of it. So I would actually film book wrap-ups on my Instagram on like IGTV. So when I was doing that, I so desperately wanted to be a professional booktuber. So I had listened to an audiobook and I wanted the physical book to hold up and have it in my hands. So I bought this book only for a wrap-up that ended up never going live, that I filmed by myself, showing no one. And since then, I have not cracked this book open, and I honestly have zero intentions of ever rereading it, and that really makes me sad. That makes me really mad that I felt like I had to do that to be a real booktuber. I feel really, really sad for my past self that I felt like I had to do that. I don't do that anymore. I'm really happy that I don't do that anymore. So the book is Followers by Megan Angelo. I do have to say, I really did enjoy this book. I enjoyed it so much. I listened to it as an audiobook. I thought it was exactly what I needed at that time. It was a little bit light and fluffy. It bounces between 2015 and 2051. Sci-fi elements, social media elements. I thought it was really, really good. And then I found out after reading it that it was a 2020 release, and I read it a few months after it came out. So I definitely felt a little bit like hot shit for like being on the book trend and like reading a brand new book that not many people had read yet. So I was a little bit on like an ego trip when I bought this. And since then I have not even cracked it open. Maybe we should crack it open at least once before we donate it. Oh, you hear that? We cracked it. I cracked the spine. I'm sorry if you all really hate that, but I did. I just cracked the spine. I think that this should go to somebody who will read it, who will open this book and read each word on each page. So I'm sending that intention to you, followers. I enjoyed you so much, but I will never open this again. Next is The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Dion, and I'm so sorry to whoever owns this after me. I threw away the dust jacket because I thought it was really, really ugly. I'm so sorry. I think that the green spine and this forest green color is great, but that just means that you might have to Google the synopsis because there's no dust jacket. I'm sorry. I honestly loved this book. It was the first thriller that I read in a really, really long time that actually felt like a thriller for me. It actually felt suspenseful and full of mystery and kept me on my toes. So I really, really enjoyed it. But I haven't really thought about it a whole lot. I don't really talk about it. I don't bring it up in any sort of like video or anything. So I feel like it's just time to pass it on. I did really enjoy it though. I'm not gonna lie. This one might be the only one that I might last minute pull out of the pile because I did really enjoy it. But I just know I probably won't reread it again, but my partner actually might be interested in reading this. So we shall see. I just want to be candid with you all and tell you my exact thoughts on it. like, because I did really enjoy this one. And next I'll be getting rid of I'll Eat When I'm Dead by Barbara Borland. I have included this in a few recommendation videos, and upon further introspection, retrospection, I just feel like it's time for me to get rid of this one. I thought the first 2/3 of this book was so engrossing. I really, really loved it. But the last third was so disappointing. I feel like the dust jacket really set you up to believe this book would be one thing, and then it just was not that, friends. It was not that at all. I think this is a really wonderful piece of smart writing, very satirical, but really fun, fast-paced, especially the first 2/3. The last third just kind of felt like a little bit of a Scooby-Doo episode, so I will be donating this book. Okay, friends, these last 3 books honestly might come as a surprise to some of you. I'm really not getting rid of them out of like anger or they did anything wrong, but some of you might be surprised by them, so please be kind, please be gentle. But the first book I'm gonna be getting rid of, are you ready? Matilda. I'm getting rid of Matilda by Roald Dahl. I had never read this before. I read it this year at the age of 26. I needed this book. I needed to understand all of the references. I had also never seen the movie before, so I did end up watching the movie after. Now I know everything about Matilda. I can understand it. I can understand references. I can understand why kids who read this at a young age grow up to feel so connected to Matilda. I really genuinely wish I read this when I was younger. But the only thing I still think about this book, because once I finished reading it, I did not think about it. The only thing I find myself thinking about, actually very regularly, is this picture of Matilda on the floor reading her books with her Coco. I think about this image a lot. So maybe that means I just need to get an art print of that or a tattoo of it. Who knows? I think about that picture a lot. But the book itself and the words itself just didn't really stick with me. I think this would be great for it to be in the hands of a younger person or maybe even an older person who never experienced Matilda and they can fall in love with it. So I will be donating this to a happy, happy home. Next, I'm gonna be donating my copy of The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I found this originally in a little free library, so it is only my civic duty to return it to another free resource like a little free library. And maybe somebody who wants to read it so much and just doesn't have the resources to read it can pick it up and find it. And that makes me really happy. I did not enjoy this book. I did not enjoy this book like at all. I thought it was a little preachy. I thought it was a little too blatantly obvious. The concept was so cool though. I thought I would really like it. It has nice short chapters. Give credit where credit is due. But overall, this book did not do a whole lot of anything for me. So I will be giving it back to my community. Please enjoy, please have fun. I hope you enjoy it more than I did. I was so underwhelmed and disappointed by this book. It felt really repetitive. It felt, again, just very preachy to me personally and a little too obvious and a little too on the nose, you know? So I am happy to be donating this book. And the last book, I do think this one might be a big surprise because several of you told me that after seeing my reading vlog with this, you went out and bought your own copies. Several of you. And first off, thank you for trusting me. But second, I am a little shocked because this book really did not do a whole lot for me. I did tear up while reading it, but afterwards, I really didn't feel a whole lot. So while reading, I felt a little bit of a sucker punch. The ending didn't really wow me. I think overall, I had originally given it 4 stars. But yeah, now it's just a little like, I don't really remember it. I did not think about it once after reading it, and that's totally okay. So I would love to hear your thoughts if you did pick this book up because of my recommendation. 1, thank you. 2, what were your thoughts? And that is What We Lose by Zinzi Clemens. I just want to appreciate this cover. I am sad that I will be losing this cover and this copy. I did find this for $1 brand new at Dollar Tree, which is absolutely amazing. I'm so happy I had the experience of reading this. I think it was really important, really unique storytelling through like vignettes. It just didn't stick with me at all. I just didn't think about it. I never included it in like a recommendation video. I didn't really know what even genre or how to categorize this book in general, so I didn't really do a whole lot of anything with it afterwards. So I really hope that this goes to a person who can absolutely love it more than I did, maybe get more out of it than I did, or maybe analyze it more too. I'm not really a super analytical reader, so maybe somebody will enjoy this a little bit more and can take a lot more out of it. Oh my goodness. So there we have it, friends. Those are the 17 books that I will be donating. I'm so happy for all of you. I'm so grateful for all of these books. I really am. Thank you so much for watching. This is ridiculous. I think I just got my chin sweat and I ruined the cover of... Look at that chin! It's so hot in here. I got actual chin grease oil on it. Maybe I should just keep it now because that's so gross. I'm so... Thank you all so much for being here. Say goodbye to these beautiful books. I appreciate you all so much for being here. Thanks again for wanting to see this content. I appreciate you all so much. I need to put these down. I will see you all very soon for my next video. Stay cozy, my friends. Bye!